Well, what it is what you brought up in your notes, which is that Jurassic World is a Hallmark movie.
It is a Hallmark movie because, okay, audience, if you don't fucking believe me, I made something very special. I hid it from Aaron on our fucking, on my fucking notes.
I'm so excited for this.
Okay, so I'm gonna reframe Jurassic World for you as a Christmas movie. Okay, ready?
Welcome to Mortified, the Friendship Quest, a podcast where two long-distance friends bounce media recommendations, all in hopes the other will like it. I'm Aaron.
And I'm brought to you by Verizon.
And this week, we're taking a trip to the Cretaceous period with Jurassic Park and Jurassic World. Before we submit ourselves to the whims of an eccentric billionaire, remember you can help us on Mortified the Legitimacy Quest by subscribing to us on YouTube, iTunes, or Spotify, signing up for our monthly newsletter in the link in our show notes, or following us on Twitter at MortifiedPod. Leyla, I am so excited to hear your thoughts on some seminal works of American cinema. It is a genuine delight to see the notes that you wrote while watching these films. So firstly, let's summarize Jurassic Park and Jurassic World.
Sure. So, Jurassic Park, the original, is a movie about an eccentric scientist named Hammond, and he started Jurassic Park, which is a theme park full of dinosaurs, and in order to get it going, he has to get approval from some experts in the field. So he brings on two scientists, and his lawyer brings on another, and they have to approve the park, but there's a betrayal, and the park goes offline, and the dinos go free, and then it becomes a survival thing.
Jurassic World, on the other hand, is kind of the same thing, except worse, and Chris Pratt is there, and he's not as cool as he wants to be.
No.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it is. It is a lot. So, yeah, let's just get into it.
Firstly, I wanted to set up the fact that, like, the reason we're watching these films is because you've never seen either Jurassic Park. You haven't seen any Jurassic Park movies, have you?
The only thing of Jurassic that I have consumed was the Super Nintendo game in the 90s.
Great. Good.
It's just the only...
So, yeah, I guess my first question was, like, as far as like filling that cultural blind spot, right? Because there's a lot of talk about, classical films, right? There are people who make their whole personalities knowing things about movies.
Famously, there's a whole book written in that vein, yes. 2 books now.
Yeah. And, like, Jurassic Park isn't necessarily, like, the fucking Criterion Collection, but, like, it's a very popular, well-known movie. And the fact that you haven't seen it, I'm sure you've probably drawn some comments. And now that you have seen it, I mean, do you feel like it's lived up to the hype?
Yeah, actually, I thought it was really good. It was engaging. It held up. The practical effects were fucking sick. It had a good story. I think I agree with some of your notes that some of the action sequences could have been trimmed down just like a smidge, just a bit. But other than that, like, it was a deeply enjoyable movie. And I really liked it. And it, even though some of the tech was a little bit outdated, like, it worked on me.
Yeah, absolutely. I just that first movie was such a a revelation in the 90s, right? That's the first, like, successful use of CGI in cinema, and, like, the fact that it still, like, kind of holds up today. Like, maybe some of the scenes where all the dinosaurs are in bright light, like, you could tell, like, oh, okay, it's pretty hokey, but, like, the stuff with the T-Rex in the dark, like, that looks very good. And, like, we'll talk about the practical effects because that stuff is phenomenal still. But in general, like, when you compare this to Jurassic World, where literally everything's CGI, and, like, the CGI is technically better, but, like, just the ways in which the actors respond to it is so different. The difference is night and day. Where do you think we should start this conversation?
You know what? Let's just get into, like, we can talk about the effects also in the context of like just how the two different parks function as settings for the movie, right? So Jurassic World, like you said, is like very CGI heavy, and the park itself is like quite futuristic and modern. And it comes, instead of Hammond being the backing billionaire, it's Masrani. Remind me, is Irfan Khan plays Masrani,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
R.I.P. to a fucking legend. He was done
Yes.
so dirty in that movie.
They wasted his talent. They killed him off so early. Oh God, he was such a delight to watch, despite his bad casting. They gave him nothing, and he still went with it. I didn't realize he died last year. I was so sad to learn that when I was reading his Wikipedia, and like, he deserved better than this.
I know. I was reading your notes, and you wrote, "Is that Irfan Khan?" I hadn't like registered the name while I was watching the movie. Like the name face connection didn't come. But the moment I read your note that was like, "Is that Irfan Khan?" I was like, "Didn't he die?" And then your next note is, "So he died last year." I was like, "Oh no, he did die." But yeah, so that park is quite futuristic, and the thing that like really perplexed me was I knew enough about Jurassic Park to know that they concluded that the park was a bad idea. And so to see that they're trying it again was a perplexing setting for me. And there's a lot of like really high-tech machinery to like help contain the they call them assets, to help contain the assets. And I think the thing I want to pick on is the I-Rex, the Indominus Rex. I did not like the I-Rex.
Oh, really? The Indominus Rex presented by Verizon Wireless?
Yeah.
You didn't tell me why you didn't like it.
Well, first of all, I should have gone with the AT&T. Much better offer. HBO has AT&T. You know, it's all that corporate company. They could have had a whole docuseries with HBO. It's wrong sponsorship. There was something odd about the way the movie was shot to me. In the first third, it's all very like eye level. There's not a lot of angles, and the reveal of the I-Rex comes so early, and it's just like a white T-Rex. Like there's nothing to it, you know. And they're hyping it up. They're like, we wanted a dinosaur that was scarier, more teeth, and then what we got was like a white T-Rex. And the way they were trying to make it more dramatic was it basically treating it like a Super Saiyan. So like every time it ran out of powers, it got a new one, but it had no reason to behave the way it did or to do it. There's no, like, real stakes to it. And I was just, I don't know, I wasn't impressed. I thought the Velociraptors were much better treated as, like, a, you know, because they were, like, tactical raptors. I thought that was much of a cooler, like, spin on the idea of these genetically engineered dinosaurs than the I-Rex, which I was just, frankly, unimpressed by.
The I-Rex is such a hysterical concept because, like, you're completely right. It is a white T-Rex with longer arms, and everyone's treating it like it's a fucking demon straight from the pits of hell. Like, there's that line where like, Claire's like, "Oh, you think that'll scare the kids?" And Masrani's like, "The kids? Their parents will have nightmares. They've seen, it's a T-Rex. It's a big fucking T-Rex with long arms." But also, the fact that the I-Rex is like a fucking sociopath and like a brain genius is so integral to the plot. Like, the I-Rex not only understands the concept of thermal imaging, but also, like, once it figures out how to trick the cameras, it also figures out how to deceive humans by like scratching up the walls. And it's like, oh, haha, you know what I'll do? An animal that's been alive for about a year, will not only figure out how thermal imaging works, I will trick people to come into my pen, and then I will wait a certain amount of time so that way they go and they leave and they think that I've left the pen. They start a big search for me, and then they'll open the gates, and then I will exit through the gates. And like, that's the whole thing. Later on, it claws out its own tracking implant. Like, what the this is the goddamn smartest dinosaur that's ever lived.
And then it eats the chip. But yeah, no, it's and then, yeah, it gets like a weird upgrade too in the middle of the movie where it's like, I think the thermal vision is like the reveal like 2/3 of the way through the movie, and I'm like, God, it's a T-Rex though. It's a T-Rex. I got chills for the T-Rex reveal in Jurassic Park. The T-Rex reveal in Jurassic Park is so fucking cool because the whole thing is, you don't see it when they go on the dino tour. it's not there. And Jeff Goldblum has this whole thing where he leans into the camera. He's like, hey, you gonna have any dinosaurs on your dinosaur tour? Which I thought was just a great delivery of that line also.
Jeff Goldblum, you will talk about him. He's great.
He fucks. I love him so much. But he, and then, you get the reveal of the T-Rex, not as foreshadowing that the T-Rex is going to be a problem, but after everything's gone down. You get the T-Rex reveal when there's real fucking danger. So, and those kids get real close to dying in that first confrontation. That shit is tense. So, the two movies have such different approaches to trying to set up tension, and one works way better than the other.
Yeah, I mean, and also, like, the difference between directors is pretty obvious. Like, J. Park is directed by Steven Spielberg, whereas Jurassic World was directed by Colin Trevorrow of Book of Henry fame. So...
now that you say that name out loud, I also remember that he has a treatment for Star Wars 9 that Jenny Nicholson read.
Yep.
Wow, it's that guy. Okay, so we have to talk about Colin Trevorrow because... I haven't seen the Book of Henry, but I watched like a YouTube video on the Book of Henry. I can't remember which YouTuber, if it was Kenny JD or one of the other kind of bad movie review channels I tend to follow. And it is about this kid, Henry, who is a boy genius, who's the most condescending little piece of shit ever put on screen. He treats his mother like fucking garbage and is like... He basically is like, I made all these, like, investments, like, we're secured, like, why haven't you paid the bills? Like, that's a child character that Mr. Trevorrow wrote. And he's, like, smarter than the school psychiatrist who, for some reason, operates in a glass room. You fucking tell me. I wouldn't want to be seen when I'm doing therapy. I'd turn into a cocoon and start crying. No one needs to see that. So, it's... a horrible movie, and the kid dies, and then the mom has to, like, figure something out based on his diary, but, like...
She has to assassinate his friend's abusive father.
Yes!
Yeah, like, he, like, this has this whole master plan where he, like, buys a fucking, like, 50 cal, and, like, figures out how she's gonna shoot, this bad dad in the head, like, and then, like, he also plans for the fact that she can't do it. It's the worst fucking movie concept I've ever heard.
It sucks so bad, but, like, the way Henry is written, it really explains a lot about Zach and Gray, because, whichever the older one is, has this insufferable, unexplained, unresolved character arc of constantly wanting to cheat on his girlfriend. It is introduced, it is spread throughout the movie, it is never resolved or explained. It is just, this boy is horny and you're going to deal with it. And Zach is a child constructed in 1992. He takes pictures with a disposable camera. His whole room is dinosaurs. He knows everything, which, I mean, like, it's not unusual for a kid to, like, know shit about a topic. It is unusual for them at the age that Zach is supposed to be to have their walls lined with not collectibles, toys of dinosaurs. That's weird. And he has a fanny pack, and his brother makes fun of him for it. It's like a whole... They're not good, fun, believable kid characters. And I didn't care about them, or that Gal Gadot was watching them, or...
Was that Gal Gadot?
It wasn't it? It was either her or a Gal Gadot lookalike. Zara,
the babysitter, who they killed in the most gruesome way imaginable. Yeah.
With objectively the best character, which was that fucking whale dinosaur.
Yeah, no, the Mosasaurus is incredible. My favorite part of the Jurassic Park franchise, to be fair.
Oh, no, sorry, it's Katie McGrath.
Okay.
She's I think she's in Supergirl as the villain? Oh! She played Morgana in Merlin. That's where I know her from. Okay, that makes sense now. Yeah, the whale was my favorite, I think, dinosaur.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It had one job, and it did it very well.
Yes, and we love that. I think that you hit upon a point that I want to talk about, because, like, Jurassic World is very much just a series of callbacks. Like, Zach's whole character is just like trying to be comparable to Tim in Jurassic Park, right? There's, two young boys who are really smart at, dinosaurs, but because, no shade to the character, actors, right? I think the acting is largely fine in both movies. But like, the dialogue is so much worse in World. So like, he doesn't have like the same charm as Tim, right? And also he doesn't have like that same, grumpy Dr. Alan Grant to play off of, who's like, oh, my whole thing's like I don't like kids, and then that's at the end of his arc he does like kids, right? It's just like, oh, my brother's being mean to me and my parents are getting divorced and I like dinosaurs. Like, those kids don't have an arc, and it sucks.
The divorce thing is so... It's like Colin Trevorrow doesn't know how to write motivation, so it's just like... He just throws every, like, sympathy point.
Well, what it is what you brought up in your notes, which is that Jurassic World is a Hallmark movie.
It is a Hallmark movie because, okay, audience, if you don't fucking believe me, I made something very special. I hid it from Aaron on my fucking notes.
I'm so excited for this.
Okay, so I'm gonna reframe Jurassic World for you as a Christmas movie. Okay, ready? She's all business. When you have kids of your own, when. He's rough around the edges. Hello, female coworker. Can I interest you in a sexual harassment as my character introduction? But when her nephews get lost in a snowstorm, he's the only one for this job. This December, Candace Cameron Bure and a generically attractive man star in Finding Christmas. Now replace snowstorm with dinosaur.
I mean, there is a storm of dinosaurs at one point. I mean, oh my god.
It's a Hallmark movie, and Bryce Dallas Howard deserves better.
Bryce Dallas Howard got fucking nothing in this film. She got a Hallmark movie, protagonist arc, which is that she's a businesswoman who doesn't have time for her family, and she doesn't understand kids, and all she cares about is the bottom line. But then she meets a hometown guy who, constantly harasses her, even though they've only went on one date. And then all of a sudden she's, got her hair is all messed up, and she's, tracking down dinosaurs in high heels, and she's got her fucking business to sport outfit change. As you mentioned, it's so much.
We gotta put a pin on her outfit. But I will say, like, I can hear the eyes rolling. I can hear them about, saying that the sexual harassment bit. But no, it's like literally sexual harassment. Like, she comes to him for a work thing at work hours, and he starts like just innuendoing the whole conversation to be like, "Want to go fuck in my bungalow?" That is sexual harassment. And that is a bad character introduction, Mr. Trevorrow, that makes your protagonist instantly unlikable. And it's the same reason I don't like Devilman Crybaby, because once you have your fucking protagonist commit a sexual crime, and you expect me to root for them, I can't.
Yeah,
because it is clear to me that you wrote it from the perspective of somebody who's never felt unsafe in that kind of situation. Or, like with Owen, maybe not unsafe, but annoyed. Because if there was one point that I could connect to with Claire, if there was one fucking feeling that she felt that I felt viscerally in my fucking bones, it was trying to lay out the logistics of a situation and then having a man completely dismiss it because he has a good gut feeling. No. There are things. There are spreadsheets, situations, resolutions. They need to be tackled. I understood. Her fucking outfit pissed me off so much because, listen, the sport conversion made me laugh. I thought that was funny. Her tying up a button up. I do that all the time. That's very funny. The purposefully ripped thigh slit that was supposed to look incidental, and the fact that her hair isn't even messed up by the end of the movie, but it's just like it goes from pinned straight to literally waved with a curling wand wavy, like styled wavy, a little bit too much holding spray wavy, annoys me to bits and pieces, because American hero Laura Dern got to look fucked up.
Laura Dern was like, she needed like a splint by the end of that film. She was like covered in blood, and like, I mean, even in the beginning, like she was able to like literally get her hands dirty and like put her whole arm in dinosaur shit. Like, They really listen. And here's the thing that Sierra pointed out to me while we were watching this is that Jurassic World technically passes the Bechdel test um, because of Claire talking to her sister about their mom. Um, that's unfortunately Jurassic Park only has Laura Dern. So like, I mean, I guess there's the kid, but like Laura Dern never talks to the kid. So like, there that doesn't necessarily fly. But like, the fact that the Bechdel test passing conversation in Jurassic World is about their mom and the fact that Claire doesn't want to have kids is like I feel like actually worse. Like you pass the Bechdel test in the worst possible way.
Yeah, I mean the Bechdel test isn't like the best measure.
Yeah, I mean
like,
it's a bare minimum, but still.
Yeah, it's like a media literacy 101 baseline kind of thing, but yeah, I mean Laura Dern has like a much more active she runs into that fucking electrical shed with a velociraptor. Like that's bad bitch physics. That's great. I love her very much in that movie. She's fantastic. But yeah, Bryce Dallas Howard gets done really, really dirty. She doesn't get a character arc. That kiss pissed me off
Like,
so
yeah.
much.
No, you don't have one terrible day with this guy who introduces himself by being like, "Hey, let's have sex," and like by the end of it, like you're making out, and like she was still at work this whole time. She's at work, like she's established as being somebody who very much cares about her job. She wouldn't be like making out with Chris Pratt, who's a bad guy.
No, if anything, the character arc should have been him taking his job more seriously to get closer to her. Like that should have, because he has the fucking incentive to, right? If he takes his job more seriously, he gets all these people out of danger. So him showing that he is a serious person and making amends for treating her unseriously would have been a better relationship arc for them.
Yes,
But
let's in media normalize girl boss character arcs
yeah, for men.
for men.
Women don't need them. I want girl boss character arcs for men. But yeah, because it's yeah, watching him was just that intro really threw me. His character intro really, really threw me. I didn't like it. And I mean, I don't really like Chris Pratt very much.
Well, no one likes Chris Pratt, right? Because he's part of a conservative church that like hates queer people.
Yeah, I mean, because I don't want to call him flat out a homophobe, but he's at least complicit in homophobia, so that's bad. But yeah, it just frustrates me that like the likability of this character in a movie like this really relies on who plays him, and it just felt like the least likable people in Hollywood came together to create him, and so he's just unlikable, but I'm supposed to root for him, and like I didn't like him on screen. I missed Samuel L. Jackson a lot in this movie. I missed Jeff Goldblum being sexy and melodramatic. Like it was just lacking. It was lacking in a big way.
That's the thing. Like Chris Pratt's character is supposed to be a callback to Jeff Goldblum, right? You have the attractive guy that's like, "Hey, something's gonna go wrong," and then when it goes wrong, he's like, "Ah, I was right." But like Jeff Goldblum, on the other hand, is like charming and cool, and like, I mean, he's flirty, but and like kind of an asshole, but he doesn't straight up come out with like, "Hey, Laura Dern, do you want to be my next ex-wife?" Like, come on.
Yeah. I mean, that being said, some of the Jurassic Park is an older movie. It's
yes.
There were some moments where I'm like, maybe we shouldn't be touching her at work like that. Mm-hmm. But she also seemed comfortable and invited it, so like it wasn't, it wasn't like a thing. I didn't feel uncomfortable watching it. I was just like, would you want to touch someone at work like that?
Yeah. But,
especially after she was elbow deep in dinosaur shit.
Yeah, that's another good point.
But yeah, I also really like that independently in our notes, Aaron asked the question, do people think Jeff Goldblum in this movie is hot? And I, on a separate occasion, said Jeff Goldblum in this movie is incredibly hot. And I also relate to his character a lot, because if I was injured by a dinosaur, I would also open my shirt wide and just try to look as sexy as possible while injured. Just for my own sake.
It's yeah. I mean, what else can you do, right? Um,
Not help.
let's yeah, no. I think we dunked enough on Jurassic World. But as far as Jurassic Park goes, like I mean, I think I've brought this up on the podcast before, but I tend to like newer movies as opposed to older movies, and I I don't know if it's just because I like the way that newer cinematography works, or like the way that movies are paced nowadays, but like Jurassic Park is objectively a better film. And I
Yes.
think you can see that in the ways that the way that you broke it down. I really like the way that you analyzed Jurassic Park, because like you talked about how at the very beginning of Jurassic Park, it's established like these are the dinosaurs are bad and they will hurt you, and like they have a whole like the first 3-4 minutes are them getting this velociraptor cage and somebody being extremely murdered by it, and Muldoon being like yo, shoot this fucking thing. And like that sets the tone for the whole movie. The tone for Jurassic World is set by this kid being sent off by his mom, and this other kid being like, my girlfriend loves me so much, it's so annoying. Like I think Jurassic Park does so much of the character work and tone setting so much better.
Right. Well, I mean, Jurassic World, like I said earlier, it's just weird that the lesson of Jurassic Park was this was a bad idea, and then Jurassic World doubles down so hard. But yeah, like, they're totally two completely different movies. Because tonally, Jurassic World is like an adventure film, like a fun family adventure film, right? Jurassic Park is scary. Like
Jurassic
there's
Park's a horror movie
yeah, it's
in some
spooky.
ways.
It's very tense. It does a lot of really great tension building. It's very I don't know, like it just does more work to round out the story, but it's a simpler story with simpler characters who have simple goals, right? So Hammond wants his park approved. Laura Dern wants children. Alan wants to get his dig funded. That's, there's their reasoning for kind of acting the way they act. And they all get stuck, and the reason the kids get lost isn't because they're being irresponsible. The kids get lost because the adults were being irresponsible. And so it's a bigger motivator for the adults to get them out of that fucking situation. And there's a lot more like running around and a lot of like tension because the two parties don't know where the other one is. Meanwhile, in Jurassic World, first of all, pulling that kind of miscommunication is harder. Like they had to intentionally shatter Gray's phone, and Zach ended up being kind of like an old school kid so that he didn't have a cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it was a kid taking pictures at the park, he would have had his own phone. There would have been two phones on those kids. And so the tension wasn't quite there. They like tried to open with this weird shot of a pigeon slamming down its foot as if it's a dino foot.
Weird. It was a CGI pigeon, but yeah, like God, it was so stupid.
So odd. The character arcs are really weird. I don't understand Owen's motivations. Like he doesn't want the animals to be weapons, but why are they weapons? And Masrani's has no motivation other than be Hammond. Claire wants to be good at her job, but like there's no like driver for any of it, and the kids get lost because they're being irresponsible, because the park is like so committed to not making it sound like something's wrong that they don't take the alarm seriously. And it's, I don't know, like I feel like Jurassic Park really tried to come at this story from the angle of like man fucking with life, and that, like they kept saying life finds a way, and you can't really like disturb the natural order. Jurassic World didn't know what its theme was. So Jurassic Park is a better story, even if Jurassic World has cooler dinosaurs. They're two thematically different. They don't feel like they belong to the same IP at all.
I mean, yeah, you can definitely see that like one was based off of like an actual novel that had thought and ideas behind it, and the other one was just like kind of a nostalgia grab. And that's disappointing, right? Because like you never want to see a franchise do the thing that this one did, which is like, those first movies were kind of popular. What if we tried to do that again? And like, unfortunately, the thing about the Jurassic Park franchise is that only the first two movies are good. Like, there is a Jurassic Park 3, which is extremely bad. There's and also there's a Jurassic World 2, which is also extremely bad. Not to say that I didn't watch, all of them very excitedly, but like I don't know, right? It's very much a symptom of the age we live in which like we keep seeing people try to extract as much value out of these properties as they can. Like it's just IP monetization. It's a shame.
I feel some kind of way about it because I'm not like hopeless about this like weird period of remakes and recycling IPs that we're in, because if you'll recall, in 2006 we also forgot how to make movies and everything was a parody of a movie. So I feel like we're just kind of recycling that weird lull in movie making right now, where a lot of the people who have power just like are out of ideas. And I unfortunately, like, Hollywood is a place where a lot of people fail upwards. That's just a fact of the matter. And I haven't seen Colin Trevorrow make a movie I liked yet. That's not to say he hasn't made a good movie. It's just to say that, I don't know, I haven't liked any of them. And as glad as I am that artists are out there making that bag, getting that cash, making them CGI dinosaurs, it would be nice to see a new IP. I feel like this hits on something I've brought up before multiple times and will continue to bring up till I die, which is it is okay to make something inspired by a franchise or inspired by an IP that is different from that IP. I feel that way about Anastasia, the Broadway musical, which if you wanted to make a musical about the revolution, fucking just make a musical about the revolution. I feel that way about any like IP that's been borrowed and just like changed so substantially that the main idea has been lost. Like, just make a new thing inspired by that thing. Have confidence in your ideas enough so that you can bring a new IP into the world and not have to bank on the popularity of the thing you're borrowing the title of. Like, it just irritates me, If you think your idea is that good, there is room for another movie about a dinosaur park. There is. It hasn't been done in 30 years. Make that movie. You don't have to call it Jurassic Park. So, I don't know. It's just frustrating because Jurassic Park's a really, really good movie, and the score is really, really good, and the dinos are really, really cool. And then Jurassic World is just kind of a cash grab, and it makes me sad because I would have loved to see another dinosaur park movie that was good on its own merits and maybe had a different lesson or a different plot.
As far as like my enjoyment of these films, though, maybe it's because I've just seen Jurassic Park so many times. I kind of like Jurassic World more as a viewing experience, despite the fact that it's not a good movie. And I do apologize for that. It's the kaiju lover in me. I just love to watch the T-Rex at the end fight the I-Rex and then get eaten by the Mosasaurus. There's some sequences in which like a bunch of pterosaurs, like when Mizrahi is flying the helicopter to track the I-Rex, one of the pterosaurs flies through the cockpit of the helicopter and impales his pilot. And it's just like, I just love some of the dumb shit in that. And I am sorry about that, but there's just some stuff in there that I really like. And I also think that in general, I think Jurassic World, despite the fact that it is an example of just constantly trying to capitalize on pre-existing IP, I think it gets a lot more of the sci-fi shit as far as like where our society is going. Correct? Like, I think the Indominus Rex sponsored by Verizon Wireless is so good because like that absolutely will happen at some point. Whenever we get fucking cool gene splicing technology, we're gonna get Amazon presents the radioactive scorpion dragon or whatever, and like that's just kind of the direction we're headed.
The Tostito-Don is like the only thing that made me laugh. I fucking love the Tostito-Don.
I want to raise a herd of Tostito-Don in my life now. Jurassic World has some good ideas and it executes on none of them well.
Yeah, I think it could have used a couple of rewrites, a couple of passes. I feel like Jurassic, it's missing this element for me of like the characters having fun. Because there's just a tiny scene in Jurassic Park where, like, they get so excited about these dinos hatching out of ostrich eggs that they break a fucking roller coaster and just go yeet themselves into the lab uninvited. And, you know, it's just, like, dweebs being excited. And I just didn't get that sense from, like, Claire or Owen that they were actually enjoying what they were doing. Like, the movie was so focused on Claire being uptight and Owen being a badass that they didn't let them, like, breathe and develop.
I think that goes back to your point about motivations, right? You could see clearly in Jurassic Park where their motivations came from, right? Grant nearly passes out when Hammond tells him they have a T-Rex. And, like, that's so endearing because it's like, oh, this grown man who loves dinosaurs so much, he almost falls into a swoon at the idea of seeing a T-Rex. Whereas, like, Owen Grady's like, yeah, I worked for the Navy and I trained raptors and I'm really cool and I also don't, I don't love it.
The line, "You and I are both dogs of war," was so emotionally jarring for me. It is the wildest reveal, the wildest and most unnecessary reveal I have ever... like, what?
What does that mean,
like,
dog?
I guess why, but I don't want it.
We both served in the military. That means something. Like, not really, actually.
It is such a reveal. I do want to go back to that scene though real quick, because like you said, I think we've dunked on Jurassic World. Kind of. It's not a bad movie. Like, it's fine. I think I'm mostly mad that it borrows the Jurassic Park IP to make a completely different thing. And I think it should have been its own dinosaur movie with Chris Pratt in it. That would have been fine. I still wouldn't like Chris Pratt, but, like, you know, Colin Trevorrow's in his rights to make a dinosaur movie. I would probably watch it. I want to talk about, real quick, while we were talking about that lab scene, the art department on Jurassic Park looked like they had so much fucking fun. Because if I had to slave away at making that egg, so you have the outer egg layer, it has to be breakable in a very specific way, and you can't tell where it's supposed to break. So from the outside, it has to look completely sealed. It has that membrane layer, some sort of like viscera swimming around in there, and a little mechanical baby velociraptor. If I watched that in the viewfinder, and I watched that fucking, or in the monitor, and I saw that work on camera, because listen, that's expensive. That was probably like a one and done, you have one shot to get this right kind of a practical. If I watched that work, I would have held my coworkers and wept. The fucking practicals are just so impressive in Jurassic Park. And because they're used so sparingly and in such like smart combination with the CGI, like all the dino reveals gave me chills. They were so cool. You know what? Maybe that's one of Jurassic World's problems for me, is I think we've been spoiled by technology. Necessity's the mother of invention. So a lot of these like 80s movies have to make do with what they have. And so you have to be very smart about the way you shoot things and like how you integrate them. And now we just, you know, can have holographic dinosaurs. So why bother when you can just put them willy-nilly wherever the fuck you want? You don't have to have PAs shaking trees to make you believe that there are velociraptors feeding on a fucking thing in there, right? Because that's what it was. PAs shaking trees. I guarantee it. You know, it's... That was your practical right there. You could just CGI a white T-Rex in there instead. So, I don't know. I just feel like I don't know. It was fine. It was fine. It was fine.
It was fine, but like, I mean, the practical effects of the first Jurassic Park, like, that's like a film buff thing. Like, people know facts about that. Like, at one point in time, I did know some facts about it. Like, I'm pretty sure that, like, they only built, like, a T-Rex head. Like, that was the main practical effect, and, like, that's what they used to, like, you know, push the car around and, like, have those cool shots of, like, its eyes and stuff, like, but, like, yeah, like, I just think that, I mean, that's the thing with Baby Yoda, right? Everybody loves Baby Yoda, but, like, that's not a CGI thing. Like, that's something that's a puppet that they made work, and because the way that it's just, because it's real and because it's, you know, manipulated in such a lifelike way, and it allows the actors to actually care about them, in a way that CGI is just so hard to replicate. I mean, listen, fucking Harrison Ford is doing his best out here, but we can't all be him, so.
Well, Harrison Ford had a man whose belly he could rub.
Yes, of course.
I mean, I was going to bring up John Boyega, who, there was an interview with John Boyega where he was like, yeah, sometimes I saw like BB-8 rolling around and I would just like want to say hi to it. Because, you know, we're humans. We want to personify the things and animals around us. It's just like a thing we do, which is incredibly endearing and adorable. And I love that we do that. I love that for us as a species. But, yeah, it was just like missing some like tactile, you know, just something. And I think the characters being like too clean played into that, because if you look at the cast of Jurassic Park, by the end of Jurassic Park, those people are fucked up and dirty. They are bleeding. They are covered in mud. They are unrecognizable, except for Jeff Goldblum in his leather pants. But even he has like a splint by the end of the movie. So, but in Jurassic World, Owen doesn't even look scratched. Claire is like sexily messy. The kids are clean. They're just clean. They're clean kids. They could just send them to school after what they went through, the horrible trauma.
In the beginning of that movie, Owen dumps gasoline all over his face and then does not take a shower for the rest of the movie, Sierra pointed out to me.
Yeah, so that man is ready to be lit the fuck up at any given moment. And yeah, it's just weird. Like, it's just missing, like, a grittiness that I would want out of a movie like this. But,
to quote Jurassic World, that first park was real, you know?
I love that guy. What was his name? Oh my god. What is his name?
Oh,
He's the only human character that I liked. I have it in my notes. Starts with an L. Lowry.
Yes,
I think Lowry's
great.
a fucking riot. Him and his, like, desk full of toy dinosaurs and... the fact that he wore a Jurassic Park t-shirt.
Yeah, and Claire's like, dude, people died there. And he's like, yeah, I know.
But, like, it's real.
Yeah.
So, incredible. I mean, there were, like, moments like that were good, but, I don't know. I think Jurassic Park, I like Jurassic Park better. I think because I like puppets. I think they're neat.
Puppets are neat. I think if you could take anything away from this discussion, it's that we should have more puppets in this world.
Well, I went to this, so, the Texas Performing Arts, because they haven't been able to put on, like, shows, have this exhibition right now of these, like, old 40s MGM movie backdrops. And when I went, yesterday, me and this lady were just, like, geeking out because, first of all, these things are massive. A lot of the stuff that's painted is life-size. There was a 90-foot-long cactus desert. That's sick as hell because you have to pan across it and it has to not be able to break, right? And then my favorite shit was this cityscape where the city was, like, in the dark, clustered at the bottom left of the canvas, and the rest of it was kind of like night sky. But me and her were looking at it, and we were like, huh. Some of those signs look like they're actually glowing. And if you, like, kneel down and you go and you look real close at the signs, they meticulously cut portions of the signs out and taped filters to the back of the linen. And then the back of the linen was painted black so that they could better control where light was coming through when they shine lights at the back of it. I love practicals. Practicals are fucking dope. Matte painters were geniuses. There's a whole thing, like, I think it was a Star Wars Coliseum scene of some sort. I've never seen Star Wars. We've gone over this. It's in my immigrant blind spot. But I'm pretty sure, like, the crowds were Q-tips that were just, like, fluffed up and blow-dried or some shit like that.
Yes, that's true.
Practicals are neat as fuck. We should be doing more shit with practicals at student filmmakers. Practicals! I love them. I was sitting there watching Jurassic Park, and I was looking at those movie screens yesterday, because there's a small chance that maybe I'll make a game this summer. We'll fucking find out. But I was sitting there, I'm like, these are things we could use. Like, these kind of tactics of, like, shining, you know, the way, like, multiplane cameras layer things and, like, shining things through certain layers. And, you know, like, for example, if you, this is just tech talk, I'm so sorry. But if you make, like, an animated noise layer in After Effects, which is super easy, you should play with some filters, and you have it kind of, like, get it to a point where it looks like it's shimmering, and then you put a PNG of a night sky over it, and then cut out holes, like transparencies where you want stars to be, you could get those stars to shimmer based on algorithms instead of having to, like, animate each individual blink. So there's, like, ways you can use the thinking of practicals digitally to do effects without like knowing Cinema 4D and you know, all these like renderers and like having to have like a whole render farm to get your shit together. So I think that's part of the reason I really like Supergiant Games, is because all of their stuff is like really, well, it used to be really minimal. They're obviously a bit bigger now, but yeah, I don't know. Practicals, guys, practicals, get practical. I love puppets.
Oh God, I think that's probably where we should make our turn to the end.
Just me screaming about puppets.
Yeah, I mean we can't top that. Leyla, when you're not screaming about puppets, where can people find you on the internet?
At LEYLSES on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram. I'm currently not doing much because I'm in class and working and moving. But my comic will come back in the summer at astrohawkcomic.com. It's about a bisexual disaster who needs to learn to rely on people. Aaron, where can people find you?
You can find me on the internet at AaronSXL. You can also listen to the other podcast I do at The Bible Boys. Also, if you like listening to people talk about Star Wars robots, I wrote an essay about why droids in Star Wars are people. You can read that at aavoigt.com. Also, our theme song is Obsolete by Keshko from the album Filmmakers Reference Kit Volume 2. Find more of their music at keshko.bandcamp.com. Leyla, what do we say as we send our listeners off into the week?
Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
And we're telling you, they should. We'll see you all next week.